A Passage to India, Chapter 7. This Mr. Fielding had been caught by India late. He was over 40 when he entered the oddest portal, the Victoria terminus at Bombay, and having bribed a European ticket inspector, took his luggage into the compartment of his first tropical train. The journey remained in his mind as significant. Of his two carriage companions, one was a youth, fresh to the East like himself. The other, a seasoned Anglo-Indian of his own age. A gulf divided him from either. He had seen too many cities and men to be the first or become the second. New impressions crowded on him, but they were not the orthodox new impressions. The past conditioned them, and so it was with his mistakes. To regard an Indian as if he were an Italian is not, for instance, a common error, not perhaps a fatal one. And Fielding often attempted analogies between this peninsula and that other, smaller, more exquisitely shaped, that stretches into the classic waters of the Mediterranean. His career, though scholastic, was varied, and had included going to the bad and repenting thereafter. By now he was a hard-bitten, good-tempered, intelligent fellow on the verge of middle age, with a belief in education. He did not mind whom he taught. Public school boys, mental defectives, and policemen had all come his way, and he had no objection to adding Indians. Through the influence of friends, he was nominated principal of the little college at Chandapur, liked it, and assumed he was a success. He did succeed with his pupils, but the gulf between himself and his countrymen, which he had noticed in the train, widened distressingly. He could not at first see what was wrong. He was not unpatriotic. He always got on with Englishmen in England. All his best friends were English. So why was it not the same out here? Outwardly, of the large, shaggy type, with sprawling limbs and blue eyes, he appeared to inspire confidence until he spoke. Then something in his manner puzzled people and failed to allay the distrust which his profession naturally inspired. There needs must be this evil of brains in India, but woe to him through whom they are increased. The feeling grew that Mr. Fielding was a disruptive force, and rightly, for ideas are fatal to caste, and he used ideas by the most potent method, interchange. Neither a missionary nor a student, he was happiest in the give and take of private conversation. The world, he believed, is a globe of men who are trying to reach one another, and can best do so by the help of goodwill plus culture and intelligence. A creed ill-suited to Chandapur, but he had come out too late to lose it. He had no racial feeling, not because he was superior to his brother civilians, but because he had matured in a different atmosphere, where the herd instinct does not flourish. The remark that did him most harm in the club was a silly aside to the effect that the so-called white races are really pinko-gray. He only said this to be cheery. He did not realize that white has no more to do with color than God save the king with God, and that it is the height of impropriety to consider what it does connote. The pinko-gray male whom he addressed was subtly scandalized. His sense of insecurity was awoken, and he communicated it to the rest of the herd. Still, the men tolerated him for the sake of his good heart and strong body. It was their wives who decided he was not a sahib, really. They disliked him. He took no notice of them, and this, which would have passed without comment in feminist England, did him harm in a community where the male is expected to be lively and helpful. Mr. Fielding never advised one about dogs or horses, or dined or paid his midday calls, or decorated trees for one's children at Christmas. And though he came to the club, it was only to get tennis or billiards, and to go. This was true. He had discovered that it is possible to keep in with Indians and Englishmen, but that he who would also keep in with English women must drop the Indians. The two wouldn't combine. Unless to blame either party, useless to blame them for blaming one another. It just was so, and one had to choose. Most Englishmen preferred their own kinswomen, who, coming out in increasing numbers, made life on the home pattern yearly more possible. He had found it convenient and pleasant to associate with Indians, and he must pay the price. As a rule, no Englishwoman entered the college except for official functions, and he invited Mrs. Moore and Miss Quested to tea. It was also because they were newcomers who would view everything with an equal, if superficial eye, and would not turn on a special voice when speaking to his other guests. The college itself had been slapped down by the Public Works Department, but its grounds included an ancient garden and a garden house, and here he lived for much of the year. He was dressing after a bath when Dr. Aziz was announced. Lifting his voice, he shouted from the bedroom, "Please, make yourself at home." The remark was unpremeditated, like most of his actions. It was what he felt inclined to say. To Aziz, it had a very definite meaning. "May I really, Mr. Fielding? It's very good of you," he called back. "I like unconventional behavior so extremely." His spirits flared up. He glanced round the living room. Some luxury in it, but no order. Nothing to intimidate poor Indians. It was also a very beautiful room, opening into the garden through 3 high arches of wood. "The fact is, I have long wanted to meet you," he continued. "I have heard so much about your warm heart from the Nawab Bahadur. But where is one to meet in a wretched hole like Chandapur?" He came close up to the door. "When I was greener here, I tell you what, I used to wish you to fall ill, so that we could meet that way." They laughed, and encouraged by his success, he began to improvise. "I said to myself, how does Mr. Fielding look this morning? Perhaps pale? And the civil surgeon is pale too. He will not be able to attend him when the shivering commences. I should have been sent for instead. Then we would have jolly talks, for you are a celebrated student of Persian poetry." "You know me by sight, then?" Of course, of course. You know me?" "I know you very well by name. I have been here such a short time, and always in the bazaar. No wonder you've never seen me, and I wonder you know my name." "I say, Mr. Fielding." "Yes." "Guess what I look like before you come out. That will be a kind of game." "You're 5 feet 9 inches high," said Fielding, surmising this through the ground glass of the bedroom door. "Jolly good. What next? Have I not a venerable white beard?" "Blast! Anything wrong?" "I've stamped on my last collar stud." "Take mine, take mine." "Have you a spare one?" "Yes, yes, 1 minute." "Not if you're wearing it yourself." "No, no, one in my pocket." Stepping aside so that his outline might vanish, he wrenched off his collar and pulled out of his shirt the back stud, a gold stud, which was part of a set that his brother-in-law had brought him from Europe. "Here it is," he cried. "Come in with it, if you don't mind the unconventionality." 1 minute again. Replacing his collar, he prayed that it would not spring up at the back during tea. Fielding's bearer, who was helping him to dress, opened the door for him. "Many thanks." They shook hands, smiling. He began to look around, as he would with any old friend. Fielding was not surprised at the rapidity of their intimacy. With so emotional a people, it was apt to come at once or never, and he and Aziz, having heard only good of each other, could afford to dispense with preliminaries. "But I always thought that Englishmen kept their rooms so tidy. It seems that this is not so. I need not be so ashamed." He sat down gaily on the bed, then, forgetting himself entirely, drew up his legs and folded them under him. "Everything ranged coldly on shelves was what I thought. I say, Mr. Fielding, is the stud going to go in?" I hey my dudes. What's the last sentence, please? Will you teach me some new words and so improve my English? Fielding doubted whether everything ranged coldly on shelves could be improved. He was often struck with the liveliness with which the young generation handled the foreign tongue. They altered the idiom, but they could say whatever they wanted to say quickly. There were none of the Bobisms ascribed to them at the club. But then the club moved slowly. It still declared that few Mohammedans and no Hindus would eat at an Englishman's table, and that all Indian ladies were in impenetrable purdah. Individually, it knew better. As a club, it declined to change. Let me put in your stud. I see, the shirtback's hole is rather small, and to rip it wider a pity. Why in hell does one wear collars at all? Grumbled Fielding as he bent his neck. We wear them to pass the police. What's that? If I'm biking in English dress, starch collar, hat with ditch, they take no notice. When I wear a fez, they cry, Your lamp's out. Lord Curzon did not consider this when he urged natives of India to retain their picturesque costumes. Hooray, stud's gone in. Sometimes I shut my eyes and dream I have splendid clothes again, and am riding into battle behind Alamgar. Mr. Fielding, must not India have been beautiful then, with the Mughal Empire at its height, and Alamgar reigning at Delhi upon the peacock throne? Two ladies are coming to tea to meet you. I think you know them. Meet me? I know no ladies. Not Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Quested? Oh, yes, I remember. The romance at the mosque had sunk out of his consciousness as soon as it was over. An excessively aged lady, but will you please repeat the name of her companion? Miss Quested. Just as you wish. He was disappointed that the other guests were coming, for he preferred to be alone with his new friend. You can talk to Miss Quested about the peacock throne if you like. She's artistic, they say. Is she a post-impressionist? Post-impression, indeed. Come along to tea. This world is getting too much for me altogether. Aziz was offended. The remark suggested that he, an obscure Indian, had no right to have heard of post-impressionism, a privilege reserved for the ruling race that. He said stiffly, I do not consider Mrs. Moore my friend. I only met her accidentally in my mosque, and was adding, a single meeting is too short to make a friend. But before he could finish the sentence, the stiffness vanished from it, because he felt Fielding's fundamental goodwill. His own went out of it and grappled beneath the shifting tides of emotion which can alone bear the voyager in an anchorage, but may also carry him across it, onto the rocks. He was safe, really, as safe as the shore dweller who can only understand stability and supposes that every ship must be wrecked, and he had sensations the shore dweller cannot know. Indeed, he was sensitive rather than responsive. In every remark he found a meaning, but not always the true meaning, and his life, though vivid, was largely a dream. Fielding, for instance, had not meant that Indians are obscure, but that post-impressionism is. A gulf divided his remark from Mrs. Turton's, why they speak English, but to Aziz the two sounded alike. Fielding saw that something had gone wrong, and equally it had come right, but he didn't fidget, being an optimist where personal relations were concerned, and their talk rattled on as before. Besides the ladies, I'm expecting one of my assistants. Narayan Gabol. Oho, the Deccani Brahman. He wants to pass back too, but not precisely Alamgar. I should think not. Do you know what Deccani Brahman say? That England conquered India from them. From them, mind, not from the Moguls. Is not that like their cheek? They have even bribed it to appear in textbooks, for they are so subtle and immensely rich. Professor Godbole must be quite unlike all other Deccani Brahmins, from all I hear say. A most sincere chap. Why don't you fellows run a club in Chandapur, Aziz? Perhaps someday. Just now I see Mrs. Moore and what's her name coming. And we'll pause here and we'll continue with this chapter in the next video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now.